就业。
On August 16th, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said at the Economic Operation meeting that the employment pressure remains high during the 14th five-year plan of the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, between 2021 and 2025. The primary solution is to develop labor-intensive industries. According to unemployment data released by the China Statistics Bureau on August 16th, the national urban unemployment rate stood at 5.1% in July 2021. The number is even lower than the level of the same period in 2019 before the outbreak. It seems suspicious due to the outbreak resurgence in China since the summer, when several cities underwent lockdowns. Li's account is probably closer to the truth. At a conference in July, he said that flexible employment in China had reached more than 200 million people, a large number of whom are migrant workers. Flexible employment, which basically means irregular work in odd jobs, can be considered a new term invented by the Chinese government and is essentially unemployment. If we analyze the data from various Chinese departments, we see an even more alarming projection that the current unemployment rate in China is probably as high as 20%. First of all, according to the latest census released by China in May 2021, there are 894 million people between the ages of 15 and 59 in China. In March 2020, the Chinese Ministry of Education released data showing that there are 41.28 million high school students and 41.83 million college students in China. After subtracting these two student populations, China's working-age population is 811 million. At the same time, the latest census data shows that the total population of rural China is 509 million, and based on 18.7% of the elderly population over the age of 60, the number of elderly people over the age of 60 in rural China is estimated to be 95.33 million. Then look at the latest bulletin of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security of China. The total employed population of the country in 2020 is 750 million, minus the 95.33 million rural elderly population. The actual total employed population is 655 million. Subtracted from the working-age population of 811 million, the actual unemployed population in China is about 156 million. With an unemployed population of about 156 million, this figure is more in line with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang's statement that China's flexibly employed population has reached more than 200 million. Then, based on the ratio of 156 million people to the working-age population of 811 million, the current unemployment rate in China is as high as 20.7%. A survey conducted by Chinese academics is also close to this figure of 20%. In an exclusive interview with QQ.com in December of 2020, Yao Yang, director of the National Development Institute of Peking University, said that with a survey done by his institute at the end of June 2020, China's unemployment rate is as high as 15%, in addition to 5% being in a state of semi-unemployment, which means that the unemployment rate is close to 20%. According to the International Labor Organization, the average unemployment rate is 6.6% in developed countries and regions, 5.5% in developing countries and regions, and 5.7% globally. Overall, an unemployment rate of 7% is considered a red line of warning. With such a high unemployment rate, what is the Chinese government's response? Going back to China's August 16th economic meeting, Premier Li Keqiang said that the pressure on employment remains high and the primary solution is to develop labor-intensive industries. A year ago, China's State Council proposed developing labor-intensive industries to provide employment opportunities for migrant workers moving to cities. At the State Council meeting in July 2021, Li Keqiang again proposed to help migrant workers find employment in cities and towns by protecting their rights and interests. By the August 16th meeting, Li had emphasized, for the third time in about a year, the need to develop labor-intensive industries in order to protect employment. Labor-intensive industries usually rely heavily on the use of labor in production and less on technology and equipment. When this direction of development was proposed a year ago, many questioned whether this was a step backward. On July 28, 2021, China's state news agency Xinhua published an article saying that the reintroduction of labor-intensive industries is by no means a step backward. The article said that labor-intensive industries play an essential role in absorbing the labor force for employment. According to a study, although the industrial output value of labor-intensive SMEs is less than 30% of the total national value, they accommodate more than 70% of the country's industrial workforce, most of which are migrant workers. In addition to rural workers, the employment of college graduates is also a concern for the Chinese government. According to Chinese media reports, the number of ordinary college graduates in China will reach 9.09 million in 2021, an increase of 750,000 in the past 2 years, the highest average annual increase since 2010. About half of them are facing the dilemma of not being able to find employment. A specific analysis can be found in the video published by this channel on June 17, 2021. So why is China shifting to the development of labor-intensive industries? US-based economist and former director of the Comprehensive Research Office of the China Institute for Economic Reform, Zheng Xiaonong, believes that the rapid changes in US-China relations have prompted the CCP to make strategic economic adjustments. Over the past 20 years, the CCP has reaped the benefits of the US-China relationship, but it also has developed a syndrome of economic dependency on the United States. US dependent syndrome consists of 3 aspects: technological dependence on theft from the US, export dependence dumping into the US, and foreign exchange dependence on US financial investment. The CCP is now beginning to worry that the relationship between China and the United States has reversed and that if economic US dependence continues, it could undermine the Chinese economy. Only by maintaining a manufacturing sector that is less dependent on the US market will it be able to survive the US-China confrontation, so Beijing will strongly support labor-intensive manufacturing. In the process of promoting transformation from fictitious economy into real economy, even if it discourages US investors, it will not hesitate to do so. According to Radio Free Asia on August 19th, from January 1st to August 17th, 2021, the total market capitalization of Chinese stocks decreased by a net USD $660 billion, or RMB 4.29 trillion. The total market capitalization of Hong Kong stocks decreased by a net HK 6 trillion or RMB 4.98 trillion, while the total market capitalization of A shares increased by RMB 2.1 trillion during the same period. The total market capitalization of the Greater China stock market, A shares plus Hong Kong shares plus US Chinese stocks, has decreased by RMB 7.09 trillion or USD $1.09 trillion so far in 2021. These wealth evaporations mainly occurred from mid to late July onwards. Industry sources said that China's GDP is RMB 100 trillion. Suppose the annual GDP growth rate in 2021 is just 7%. The wealth evaporation in the stock market is RMB 7 trillion, which can be roughly interpreted as the whole country has been working for nothing in 2021. It is related to the regulatory storm that Beijing is continuing to push through. On August 20th, Reuters reported that multiple sources said the CCP regulators believe it would be best to introduce a government-backed third-party information security firm to manage and oversee the data of Chinese companies that intend to conduct initial public offerings or IPOs. It would effectively limit the ability of companies to transfer data from China out of the country. No final decision has been made on the plan, the source said. The source declined to be named because of the sensitivity of the issue. The plan is one of several proposals being considered by the Beijing government as communist authorities have tightened controls over mainland internet platforms in recent months, including a move to increase scrutiny of overseas listed companies. The plan is one of several proposals being considered by the Beijing government, which would require all Chinese companies that go public overseas to undergo security checks. These companies that want to go public must have at least 10 million customers' information. Otherwise, it would be difficult to get investment if they were too small in size, even if they went public. Meanwhile, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, has suspended the registration of mainland Chinese companies for IPOs in the U.S. through shell companies. It has allowed the U.S. Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, or PCAOB, to inspect the financial audits of Chinese stocks. However, the Chinese Communist authorities have stipulated that locally audited financial statements cannot be handed over to foreign countries. Under pressure from both sides, the path for Chinese companies to go public in the U.S. is basically blocked. On August 19th, the Chinese government announced another request for input on industry standards for live e-commerce platform management and service standards. It signals a clear attitude to continue to strengthen the regulation of the online technology industry, causing the shares of related companies to sink to new lows. On August 19th, the Hong Kong stock Alibaba plunged 6.6%, with its market value breaking a new low since its IPO. The market is gradually losing confidence in Chinese stocks. According to foreign media reports, many investors who originally wanted to buy low to bottom out have given up on Chinese stocks. Prior to this, Chinese companies were very strong, listing in the United States. According to data compiled by Bloomberg, 37 Chinese companies went public in the U.S. in early July 2021, raising a total of USD $12.9 billion. In 2020, 35 Chinese companies went public in the U.S., a 10-year high, according to U.S. media outlet The Wire China. However, the Xi administration's sudden regulatory storm since July has put the brakes on this trend. Even Western financial elites close to the Communist Party's top brass have been badly hit by the regulatory storm. The Financial Times reported on July 26th that the regulatory storm imposed by China on the education and culture industry might wipe out billions of dollars of investments by multinational investment banks such as BlackRock, Inc. BlackRock, a leading U.S. investment bank with long-standing ties to the CCP, received its first approval to open a wholly foreign-owned public fund management company in China in June 2021. In August, Beijing's regulatory storm is hitting an increasing number of industries, from the internet to private education, beauty, formula, alcohol, electronic games, entertainment, and so on, bringing down one industry almost every day. Even the chip industry, which is included in the CCP's 14th five-year plan, has not escaped the fire of the official media. On August 7th, CCTV Finance published an article criticizing core chip speculation, saying that the regulatory authorities should investigate companies speculating on chips. The next day, the share prices of A-share chip companies plummeted. It triggered a stock halt on Leon and Gok Microelectronics, King Semi, and VeriSilicon, falling more than 10%. In another notable move, Beijing has already tightened its regulations and dampened the investment enthusiasm and confidence of real estate companies in the previous month of July. Yes, Beijing is even determined to crack down on the real estate sector, which has long been a driver of China's GDP. What is the purpose of these moves? What kind of game is the CCP playing? We will continue our analysis in the next episode, so stay tuned.